Across the galaxy, bound by rigid laws, humanity arrived not to conform, but to shatter the established order. This tale defies all expectations, challenging everything previously understood. General Clock of the Tholian swarm, a gelatinous being, slammed an appendage on the meeting table, demanding an explanation. How could a species that created a device for toasting bread pose a threat to galactic peace? The room, filled with the galaxy's supposedly greatest military minds, those who hadn't been eliminated by unfortunate tactical choices, descended into an anxious silence. General Relf, a serpentine creature with scales shimmering like a shattered disco ball, cautiously requested permission to speak. Clock, his amorphous form quivering with hesitant agreement, granted it. Relf, nervously glancing at the other attendees, clarified it wasn't the bread toasting technology that was concerning, but rather their sparring practices. Clock recoiled, questioning how sparring, something seemingly innocuous like knitting or interpretive dance, could cause his fleet to retreat from the quadrant of mild convenience. A nervous cough echoed from a corner, originating from General BRM, whose species resembled a hybrid of a mobile coat rack and a frightened houseplant. His voice trembled as he explained that humans don't spar like other galactic species, their practices are unsettling, and the recordings have been challenging to process. Across the galaxy, the assembled generals, still reeling from the footage of human sparring, struggled to make sense of it all. General Clock, his gelatinous form trembling, tapped a pseudopod against the pause button on the holographic display. He couldn't fathom how such seemingly reckless behavior could be considered training. They harm each other for amusement, he stammered, his voice laced with disbelief. General Relf, having finally righted her overturned chair, offered a hesitant explanation. They do so willingly, Supreme Gelatinous One, she clarified. They appear to condition themselves for battle by simulating discomfort and indignity. The other attendees erupted in a cacophony of bewildered exclamations, tossing around terms like insanity, self-destructive tendencies, and pure madness. Clock, overwhelmed by the chaotic discussion, bellowed for silence. We must attempt to comprehend the psychology of these beings, he declared. Perhaps this is their method of social connection. General BRM, shaking his leafy appendages in distress, vehemently disagreed. Supreme One, I have established bonds with entities from across 23 sectors, he protested, and never has one attempted to inflict blunt force trauma to my thorax as a gesture of friendship. The holographic display flickered back to life, showcasing a compilation of various human sparring techniques. More humans appeared, grappling, exchanging blows, and even engaging in what resembled a mock battle with elongated wooden implements. At one point, a human landed a solid strike to another's ribs, only for the recipient to chuckle and exclaim "good one," before retaliating with equal force. General Relf, observing the display, muttered, "They're deranged, utterly deranged." BRM added, his voice trembling, "and perilously so. The swarm cannot overcome an adversary that views pain as a source of amusement. They have weaponized their own illogicality." Clock, his gelatinous form slumping in defeat, recognized the gravity of the situation. "This alters everything," he declared. "If they can find humor in their own suffering, what else are they capable of?" A chilling silence descended upon the room, each general grappling with their own escalating anxieties. Relf broke the quiet with a single, terrifying question: if this is their concept of friendly sparring, what happens when they are truly angered? The Galactic Reconnaissance Bureau, a division known for its blend of bravery and unfortunate luck, assembled a small team for a mission officially designated Operation Friendly Insight, but unofficially dubbed the mission nobody wanted. Leading this endeavor was Agent Planks, a wiry, beetle-like creature whose chitinous exoskeleton rattled with anxiety whenever the word human was uttered. His team comprised two equally apprehensive recruits, Glib, a quadruped resembling a furry Ottoman, and Zorik, a floating orb with a single, expressive eye currently radiating intense regret. "This will be straightforward," Planks lied, as the trio prepared for teleportation to the human planet. "We observe their sparring customs, collect data, and depart before they detect our presence." "Define a detect," Glib nervously inquired. "Do they bite? Disintegrate you at the atomic level? Force you into awkward small talk?" "Silence!" Planks barked, his voice cracking mid-command. Remember, they are merely a peculiar, primitive species. What's the worst that could happen? The worst began approximately 3 seconds after their arrival. Materializing near a human training area, the team was immediately assaulted by the aroma of perspiration and something their reports vaguely described as gym socks. Humans in mismatched attire hurled themselves at each other with an enthusiastic abandon that defied all known survival instincts. "Observe them," Zorik whispered, his single eye darting around nervously. "They appear jovial." Planks adjusted his holographic recorder, zooming in on a particularly boisterous match. 2 humans, one tall and broad-shouldered, the other smaller but agile, circled each other like predatory animals. Without warning, the smaller human darted forward, seizing the larger one's arm, flipping him onto his back, and pinning him to the ground. The larger human responded with a laugh so loud it made Planks flinch. Did he just express amusement after being defeated?" Glib muttered, shrinking further into their hiding place in the bushes. "It's more disturbing than that," Zorik whispered back. "He's requesting a rematch." The recorder captured the larger human springing to his feet and slapping the smaller one on the back with enough force to incapacitate most of Planks' species. "Good one, Lucy," he grinned. "I'll get you next time." Planks tilted his head. Who congratulates their opponent for such a display of dominance? Are we certain these are not malfunctioning androids? The humans, however, were just warming up. More pairs began sparring, employing an alarming array of techniques. One human tripped another, who rolled to his feet and retaliated with a spinning kick, sending his opponent tumbling. Instead of responding with aggression or retreating in shame, the fallen human simply shouted "well played" and slapped the ground in apparent appreciation. Why are they deriving pleasure from this? Glib whimpered, flattening himself against the ground as a particularly boisterous human sprinted past, brandishing a stick. Are they incapable of experiencing shame? Pain? Basic fear? They are unnatural, Zorik agreed, his orb turning a shade paler, a difficult feat for a spherical being. Perhaps they are immune to logic or consequences. Planks, captivated by the sheer strangeness of it all, remained silent, mesmerized by the spectacle unfolding before him. The humans' movements were erratic, unrefined, and completely unpredictable. They flailed, stumbled, and even bumped into each other, only to rise, laughing, and continue their peculiar activity. This wasn't combat as the galaxy understood it, it was utter mayhem. "This isn't sparring," Planks finally whispered, his voice barely audible above the din. It's some form of recreational pandemonium." The situation intensified when another human entered the area, carrying what Planks' database identified as a folding chair. Without a moment's hesitation, the human joined the fray, utilizing the chair to block, swipe, and, most alarmingly, sit down in the midst of the action. The other humans responded with enthusiastic cheers. "Are we witnessing the development of a new weapon?" Glib stammered, his voice trembling. "Uncertain," Zorik replied, his single eye wide with disbelief. "But that is not the intended purpose of a chair." Planks, however, was more concerned with the larger implications. His claws twitched nervously as he zoomed in on the humans' faces. Every single one was grinning, even those sprawled on the ground nursing what appeared to be painful injuries. This isn't combat training, he realized with a dawning horror. This is how they socialize. They derive enjoyment from this absurdity. Glib and Zorik exchanged worried glances, as if confirming Planks' unsettling theory. One human turned to another and said, "Hey, your dodging is getting better. Next time, try not to block with your face." Both erupted in laughter, as though this were a clever joke rather than a blatant disregard for personal safety. "I'm leaving," Zorik declared, floating away from the recording device. "I don't care what the council says. This mission is a death trap. Hold your position." Plank snapped, although his voice lacked conviction. Even he could see that no amount of galactic military strategy could prepare them for this level of illogical behavior. These creatures didn't just tolerate chaos, they actively embraced it. Suddenly, one human glanced in their direction, his eyes narrowing as if he'd noticed something out of place. "Did you see that?" he asked his sparring partner, pointing towards the bushes where the reconnaissance team was hiding. I think there's something over there. Run! Planck shrieked, his composure shattering as he bolted towards their predetermined extraction point. Glib and Zorik followed, tripping over each other in their frantic attempt to escape. As they vanished in a flash of light, the human lowered his hand. Hey, he said, scratching his head. Must have been a squirrel or something. Following the disastrous reconnaissance mission, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Agent Planks, still visibly shaken and muttering about humans and their unorthodox use of furniture in combat, delivered his report. The air in the chamber was thick with tension and the faint scent of burnt circuitry, a byproduct of General Goro's stress-induced plasma discharge. Supreme Overlord General Blorox, a being resembling an overstuffed sofa with an excessive number of arms, demanded a summary of their tactical findings. Planks hesitated, then stammered, they seem to enjoy both giving and receiving pain. Recreationally. Also, they laughed when we ran. I believe we served as their entertainment. Panic erupted among the assembled generals. Blorox silenced them with a wave of his 17 appendages. Enough. We require direct interaction. We must dispatch an ambassador to ascertain their intentions. An uneasy quiet settled over the room as each general subtly attempted to appear occupied with their datapads. Blorox's numerous eyes finally fixed on General CAX, an amphibious creature perpetually wearing a disapproving scowl. CAX, Blorox intoned, you are both expendable and particularly irritating. You will go. CAX's frown deepened. If I must, he sighed, his gills flushing a nervous shade of violet. However, I request a translator. I cannot risk misinterpreting their primitive vocalizations. Blorox gestured towards a sleek, chrome robot standing in the corner. This is Lingua 9, the most sophisticated linguistic AI in the galaxy. It will ensure clear communication. Splendid, CIX replied dryly. And should I return in one piece, I shall commend its performance. CIX landed near a human training facility, immediately confronted by the sight of two humans energetically swinging padded sticks at each other. One stick ricocheted, striking its wielder squarely in the forehead. Instead of anger, the human erupted in laughter, collapsing onto the mat. This is madness, CIX muttered. Lingua 9, initiate communication. The Ari's smooth, authoritative voice responded, communication interface active. Commencing diplomatic protocol. CAX stepped forward, performing what his species considered a gesture of respect, a slow, exaggerated blink with all four eyelids. Greetings, humans, he announced, his voice dripping with forced civility. One of the humans, a lean man with a crooked nose, turned and grinned. Whoa, cool costume, dude. You here for sparring? CIX froze. Sparring, he stammered, glancing at Lingua 9 for clarification. Translation suggests they are inviting you to participate in a ritualistic combat scenario, the AI stated flatly. CIX gulped. No, thank you. I come in peace. The humans exchanged amused glances. That's what they all say, the other human, a muscular woman with a ponytail, chimed in. Come on, alien dude, let's see what you've got. Before CAX could protest, the woman tossed him a pair of padded gloves, which landed on his head with a soft thud. Is this some sort of trap? CIX hissed to Lingua 9. Unlikely, the AI replied. They appear to be inviting you to participate as an equal. An equal? CIX's amphibious form trembled with indignation. I am a general. I do not engage in. Before he could finish, the woman darted forward, lightly tapping his arm with a padded glove. Tag! You're it, she exclaimed, laughing. CIX panicked. A challenge to the death, he croaked, lunging forward with the grace of a beached sea cucumber. The humans easily dodged his clumsy attacks, their laughter increasing with each miss. You're not bad, frog guy, the man said, sidestepping another flailing appendage. I'm going to die, CIX muttered to himself, his attacks growing even more frantic. Not with moves like that, you won't, the woman replied, clearly misinterpreting his distress. CAX, battered but not broken, stumbled back onto his ship, Lingua 9 hovering solicitously by his side. The experience had left him profoundly disoriented, not from physical harm, but from the sheer bewildering nature of human interaction. Report, he croaked, his voice still hoarse from what he now understood to be enthusiastic encouragement rather than threats. Analysis complete, Lingua 9 responded, its voice as smooth and unperturbed as ever. Humans engage in sparring not for dominance, but for a complex social ritual involving simulated defeat and stylized humiliation. CIX slumped into his command chair, his multiple eyelids drooping with exhaustion. They celebrate failure, he muttered, the concept still alien to his strategic mind. They derive pleasure from being struck, tripped, and tagged. It's a form of bonding. Affirmative, Lingua 9 confirmed. Their concept of social cohesion appears to be predicated on shared experiences of simulated adversity. CIX shuddered, recalling the disconcerting sensation of padded gloves impacting his sensitive skin. They even complimented my technique, he said, a tremor running through his amphibious form, while simultaneously evading my every attempt at engagement. Preliminary data suggests they employ a form of ironic praise, Lingua 9 explained. It is a method of diffusing potential conflict and reinforcing social bonds. CAX pondered this, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. So, by humiliating me, they were actually being friendly. Within the context of their cultural paradigm, yes, Lingua 9 confirmed. Their behavior, while unorthodox, appears to be driven by a desire for camaraderie and shared experience, rather than malice. CIX let out a long, gurgling sigh. I require time to process this, he announced, waving a webbed hand dismissively. Prepare a report for the Council. Emphasize the unique nature of human interaction. As the ship walked back towards the Galactic Council headquarters, CAX couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that he had not only been spared, but also played. He had been a participant in a bizarre game whose rules he didn't understand, and whose objective seemed to be the amusement of all involved, himself excluded. This was not the decisive victory he had envisioned, but a strange, bewildering draw, leaving him with more questions than answers. The Galactic Council was in an uproar. News of CIX's bizarre encounter with the humans, his survival, and the baffling account of their sparring rituals had spread like wildfire, sparking a wave of fear and bewildered speculation. Some generals advocated for immediate quarantine, others suggested launching a preemptive strike, while a few, still reeling from the sheer absurdity of it all, proposed simply never mentioning the humans again, hoping they would simply disappear. General CAX, his amphibious skin mottled with stress-induced discoloration, stood before the assembled council, his voice strained with barely suppressed panic. We cannot engage them in conventional warfare, he declared, slamming a webbed hand onto the meeting table. Their tactics are illogical, their resilience is astonishing, and their sense of humor, he shuddered, is deeply unsettling. Supreme Overlord General Blorox, his numerous arms fidgeting nervously, demanded an explanation. What do they want? He boomed, his voice echoing through the chamber. CIX hesitated, searching for the words to describe a concept so alien to the galactic mindset. They want to have fun, he finally stammered, the words sounding almost blasphemous in the hallowed halls of the Galactic Council. A wave of confused murmurs rippled through the assembled generals. Fun? Blorox repeated incredulously, as if the word itself were an insult. They engage in simulated combat for enjoyment? Affirmative, CIX confirmed miserably. They derive pleasure from falling, being struck, and even being tagged. It is, as their translator explained, a form of social bonding. The council erupted into chaos. Several generals fainted outright, their aides scrambling to revive them. Others began shouting over each other, proposing increasingly desperate solutions, ranging from orbital bombardment to constructing a giant impenetrable barrier around the human sector. Blorox, however, remained skeptical. Explain to me, he demanded, leaning forward, his multiple eyes fixed on CIX, how this nonsense translates into a credible threat. CIX groaned, rubbing his temples. It's not the sparring itself, he explained, his voice hoarse. It's their capacity to embrace failure. They are not constrained by the fear of defeat, they welcome it. They learn from it. He shuddered again. It's horrifying. The Galactic Council, still reeling from Madison Harper's bafflingly cheerful demonstration of fun, descended into a state of unprecedented paralysis. The very foundations of their strategic thinking, built on the principles of dominance, fear, and the calculated avoidance of discomfort, had been utterly shattered. Supreme Overlord General Blorox, his numerous arms draped listlessly over his overstuffed form, issued a galaxy-wide directive: avoidance. Complete and utter avoidance of the human sector. It was to be marked on all galactic maps as a zone of extreme instability, a region to be circumnavigated at all costs. The humans, in their baffling enthusiasm for playful self-destruction, were not to be engaged, provoked, or even acknowledged. They were, for all intents and purposes, to be erased from galactic consciousness. General CIX, tasked with disseminating this humiliating decree, felt a profound sense of relief mingled with a lingering unease. He had faced down hostile armadas, negotiated treaties with sentient nebulae, and even survived a diplomatic dinner with the notoriously flatulent Grokkans, but nothing had prepared him for the existential terror of human fun. The memory of Madison Harper's cheerful grin, her casual disregard for pain, and her disturbingly enthusiastic invitation to join in their chaotic rituals still haunted his dreams. As the avoidance directive rippled across the galaxy, reactions varied. Some species, relieved to be spared the bewildering prospect of interacting with humanity, simply adjusted their trade routes and went about their business. Others, more curious or perhaps more foolish, dispatched covert observation teams, hoping to glean some insight into the human psyche, only to return shaken and muttering about the horrors of dodgeball and the unsettling phenomenon of laughter in the face of defeat. One particularly bold, or reckless, species, the Zargosians, renowned for their love of competition and elaborate rituals of dominance, sent a formal challenge to Earth, proposing a galaxy-wide sparring tournament. The message, intercepted by the Galactic Council, caused Blorox to experience the equivalent of a galactic heart attack. "They want to spar with us," he stammered, his multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. CAX, his amphibious skin turning a sickly shade of green, confirmed the message's authenticity. "They believe it will be enjoyable," he added weakly. Blorox, overwhelmed by the sheer audacity of the proposal, issued a counter-directive: silence. The Zargosian challenge was to be ignored, deleted, and never spoken of again. Humanity, in their blissful ignorance of the galactic-scale panic they had induced, was to be left undisturbed in their chaotic little corner of the universe. And so, the galaxy held its breath, collectively averting its gaze from the human sector, hoping against hope that the chaotic energy contained within would somehow, miraculously, burn itself out. But as CAX had learned, and as the Galactic Council was slowly beginning to understand, human enthusiasm, once unleashed, was a force of nature, and like all forces of nature, it was utterly unpredictable.